What's going on, YouTube? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which time zone you are currently watching me in right now. And if you don't know me, my name is Ryan. Thank you so much for being here. And if you do know me, welcome back. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe and that like button for me. I do appreciate it. Now, today's topic, I want to talk about something that I used to struggle with a lot, and I feel like other men tend to struggle with, which are the struggles that men typically have in relationships. And I'm not making this video to, I guess, excuse the behavior of men, more so to explain the behavior of men and why they might act the way that they do, including myself in the way I used to act in relationships compared to how I act now in relationships or compared to what I do now in relationships. I feel like a lot of men might struggle to say these things out loud, or they might live in fear, or they might not even acknowledge that these are even problems affecting their relationship in a negative way. So I feel like hopefully me making this video creates more confident men to speak up in their relationships, or it helps women, I guess, understand men a little bit more to try to help dissect what they're going through and get them to open up and communicate. By the way, I have a list, so if you all see me looking down, it's because I'm reading from my list so I don't forget my major points that I wanted to pretty much touch on through this video. So first and foremost, communication challenges. And I feel like a lot of men struggle with communication, and it can be for various reasons, because a lot of men don't really communicate with each other. I know when it comes to me talking to my guy friends, those conversations look a lot different than me talking to my wife. And the reason I say this is because my guy friends is just one word answers, or it's very short, compared to talking to my wife. It is very extended, very long. It's actually like a conversation. So for example, if I go, "Hey bro, how was your day?" My guy friend be like, "Oh, it was good. How was yours?" And I'm like, "Oh, it was good." There's no explanation as to why it was good, or what was good about it, or what I did today that was good. It was just more so, "Oh, it was good." Short to the point, right? But if I have the same conversation with my wife and I say, "Hey sweetie, how was your day?" And she'll be like, "Oh, my day was great. I went to work and then I ate this and I did that and I felt this way and traffic was like this," and it'll be an extended conversation. Not only that, she's expecting me to reciprocate that same dialogue to her. So when she asks me how my day was, I can't just say, "Oh, it was good," because she's going to want to know what was good about it. What did I do that day? What did I eat? So on and so forth. She's interested in that conversation, that the meat of it, right? And I feel like when a lot of men aren't used to conversating like that, they can find that very overwhelming, or they can find it too much. Or why do I have to explain myself to you? Or why do I have to go into detail about the way I communicate? Or why? And it's because women communicate differently than men do. Once again, it doesn't excuse it. It's just there's a disconnect there. So if I use that same example and my wife says, "Hey honey, how was your day?" And I say, "Oh, my day was good," and I leave it at that, she's going to think something's wrong. She's going to think something's off, because that's not how she's used to communicating. Typically, that's how she would respond if she was upset or she was angry. She'd be like, "Oh, my day's good." So I feel like that already is a disconnect within itself when men communicate, especially when they're in a relationship with a woman. I also feel like a lot of men don't understand that communicating to that extent also builds a foundation of trust and intimacy. Like it goes further into it. It's almost like you're practicing for these vulnerable conversations that are necessary to have in relationships. I know, like I just said, oh, it starts out with, "How's your day going?" But if you're able to go into detail about your day, then what's stopping you from going into detail about your feelings and about your emotions? So instead of just saying, "I'm mad," you can say, "Well, I'm mad because traffic was bad and I was having a horrible day because of my boss," and you go into detail about that instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm mad." Because when you have these conversations with your girlfriend or with your wife or with your partner who's a woman, she's going to want to know in detail why you're feeling the way you're feeling, what affected you to feel that way, what caused you to feel that way. She's going to want to know all these things. And that's part of that vulnerability aspect that a lot of men don't typically explore, because they're not used to having these conversations, especially with their guy friends. Following that point is balancing emotional needs. So I feel like a lot of men, and including myself in that case, is this one in my beard? Oh, okay, there we go. I feel like a lot of men struggle with balancing emotional needs. And when I say that, I mean like a lot of men, including myself in the past, felt like I had to be there for everybody else because that was my job as a man. That was my job as a provider. When it came to my own feelings and my own emotions, I just tuck those away and say, you know what, it is what it is, or I'll deal with it later, or it's no big deal, or you know what, it's just part of what comes with the territory. As a man, I'll figure it out, right? And granted, I'm human. Even though I'm a man, even though my gender is a male, I am a human being and I'm gonna have feelings. I'm gonna have emotions. Some days I'm not gonna be okay. Some days I'm gonna be angry. Some days I'm gonna be sad. Heck, some days I'm gonna wanna cry because life is so overwhelming. But as a man, we typically tuck those feelings and emotions away all the way in the back and we're there for other people. And that becomes very exhausting. Not being there for other people, but trying to keep those feelings and emotions tucked in because inevitably you'll explode. You get upset, you get angry, and that shows in your actions and it shows in your words when you reach that boiling point. But feeling obligated to constantly be there for everybody else, especially your girlfriend or your wife, it almost feels like only her feelings and her emotions matter. And granted, that's not always the case. It's just that because a lot of men don't talk about their feelings and emotions, their woman is not there for them in ways that a man would like for that woman to be there for him, but he's not expressing that. So how is she supposed to know? Because she's not a mind reader. So that man just says, well, I'm angry, but he doesn't say, okay, why he's angry or what's causing him to be angry or what he needs in this moment because he is angry. So do you need space? Do you need comfort? Do you need cuddles? Do you need to take a walk? Like, what exactly do you need because you are feeling the way you feel? But instead of doing that, a lot of men, including myself in the past, would be like, you know what? I'll deal with it. It is what it is. But you walk around with this angry face, you walk around upset, you walk around frustrated, and it shows in your actions and it shows in your words. It's just simply remember the fact that you are human, you are allowed to have feelings and emotions, you're allowed to not be okay. And expressing that to your partner so they know. Social pressure for stereotypes. So in society, I think that kind of caveats what I just said, that men aren't supposed to show feelings and emotions. Men are supposed to be tough. Men are supposed to be strong. Men are supposed to have all the answers all the time. In reality, once again, men are just humans. Men are just trying to figure out life just the same way women and children and everybody else is, right? But that societal pressure becomes overwhelming when you feel like you have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders at all times. You have to be the one to take care of it. You have to be the one to go get it. You have to be the one to produce it. You have to be the one. You have to be the one. You have to be the one. As a man, you have to be the answer all the time. And that is exhausting. Just like holding on to those feelings and emotions instead of expressing them or instead of conveying them to your partner and allowing that partner to be there for you. I think a lot of men get so lost in the sauce that they forget that they created a village around them. They created friends who would be there for them if they needed to. They created a relationship with a woman who would be there and do absolutely anything for them. They have to sometimes rely on the people around them. And I think that's kind of hard for a lot of men due to the societal pressures of always feeling like they have to have the answers all the time. I know it's hard. It was hard for me, and it's still kind of hard for me to this day to say, hey, honey, I don't have the answer to this, or I don't know how to do this. Because that societal pressure, it makes me feel like I'm supposed to know. I'm supposed to have the answer. I'm supposed to be able to figure it out. Reality of it is, I don't know everything. And I'll be the first to admit that I don't know everything. And I'd rather say, hey, I don't know, rather than act like I do know and then mess it up or miss out on it, whatever the case is. So I know it took for me to look beyond myself and say, you know what, I can't do this. And sit with that. And it doesn't mean that I'm less of a man or that I'm stupid or that I'm incapable as a man. It just means that I don't have the skills for this task, but maybe my wife does. And just because she's a woman doesn't make her less than. It doesn't make her an anomaly because all of a sudden a woman can take care of it. No, it just means that she's better suited for the task than I am. And I have to be man enough to say that, or be human enough, or be a person enough to say, hey, I can't do this. But society says, well, if you can't as a man, then you're no good, or you can't produce, you're no good, or if you don't have the money, you're no good. And that's very draining, and that's a lot of pressure to have for anybody, especially a man who's already dealing with the lack of being able to express emotions, being able to express emotions and feelings, and being able to, um, I guess, uh, um, give out tasks to other people so that way they're able to help that man. Um, Managing conflict or navigating conflict. I know I keep reiterating on this point because a lot of men hold in those feelings and emotions and they try to problem solve by themselves as individuals. They don't really know how to manage conflict outside of themselves, because a lot of men feel like, well, if I can do it by myself, or if I can manage my feelings and my emotions, or if I could just say it is what it is, or if I don't need to vent, or if I don't need to talk about the way I feel, then why do you? And of course, as a woman, or for a lot of women actually, they want to talk about how they feel. Like, you, as that woman's partner, might not be able to solve the problem. You might not have the answer. You might not even remotely be in a realm of fixing whatever it is that's wrong with her. But she wants to vent. She wants to talk about it. She wants to dissect it. She wants to have closure. She wants to be able to walk away from the conversation and say, you know what, I got everything off my chest that I wanted to say. A lot of men don't feel that way. So that can become a very overwhelming feeling for a lot of men, to where when a woman's expressing her feelings and her emotions, because it sounds like nagging to him, or it sounds like there's always something wrong with her, in reality, she just wants to talk about the way she feels. A lot of men aren't used to that. And therefore, managing conflict gets hard, because managing conflict requires you to look beyond yourself. And even though it's not a big deal to you as a man, or even though you don't see it as a big problem, that woman does. And because that woman does, if it's a big problem to her, it should be a big problem to you, because this is your woman, this is your lady, and you care about her and the way she feels. So even if, once again, if you don't have the answer, if you don't have the response to it, it might just require you to listen, not necessarily fix it. And I think that a lot of men are very problem solution based. So they listen for the problem, and then they try to find a solution for the problem, because obviously if you got a solution for the problem, then there's no more problem. And once again, it might not require you to fix it. It might just require you to listen. And I think that it's hard for a lot of men to just understand that you don't always have to do something just because something's brought to your attention. Sometimes it just requires you to be in the moment and understand what's going on and why it's happening. And that's it. Providing financial stability. So that goes back into what we discussed a little bit earlier, as far as having the weight of the world on your shoulders, because society tells you as a man, you're supposed to pay all the bills. You're supposed to take care of everything financially. Reality of it is that might have been feasible in the early 2000s, but right now in 2024 is not really realistic for a lot of men. It's not that a lot of men don't want to provide that life for their woman, but also it's hard. A lot of men aren't in a financial position to be able to provide financially for every single thing, for shopping and for bills and for family and for everything else. They're barely keeping their own head above water. And I think that a lot of men beat themselves up when they feel like they're not making enough. Or even a lot of cases, they feel a little bit jealous, or they feel some type of way when their woman's making more than them. I know that's the thing too, as kind of a blow to their ego, because they might be making $50,000 a year, and their woman might, or their wife or their girlfriend might be making $80,000, $90,000 a year. And it's a stereotypic thing, to where a lot of men feel like they're supposed to be the sole breadwinner. But I feel like at the end of the day, you're a team. And if your woman's okay with sharing money, as far as like, this is, I know you make this money, I know she makes this money, but ultimately is your money, is both your money at the end of the day, because you two are a team, you two are in a relationship type deal, then I don't see a problem or an issue with it. As well as going 50-50, or whatever dynamic you and your partner need in order to survive, or to stay afloat, or to be able to pay bills on time, or whatever the case is. As long as you two are happy with the dynamic, I personally don't see a problem or issue with it. But I do, and I did see a problem or an issue with it prior to being confident in myself, because I felt like this is an aspect as a man that you're supposed to have. This is something as a man you're supposed to check off your list and be able to say, I could take care of this as well, along with everything else that's going on in the world, because I can carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. Realistically, that's not realistic. Expressing love and affection. I feel like a lot of men have the misconception that love and affection equals materialistic things, because part of it's society, I feel, that has translated love into materialistic items. because it goes back into that financial stability aspect. Like, what can you bring to the table as a man? What can you provide me as a man? What can you buy me? Can you buy me a Coco Chanel bag with red bottoms? And I think that a lot of men don't really understand, like, it's not about the price tag, it's about the effort, it's about the gesture, right? So you can buy a woman a Coco Chanel bag for, I don't know how much they cost, for $5,000, $10,000, or you can go buy her, or you can go make her a teddy bear and put your voice in the teddy bear and take her out on a picnic date, and it can have the same effect to a certain extent. But I feel like that the effort that you put into that picnic date and going out to get her special teddy bear, which is her favorite color and her favorite flowers, are gonna mean more than the price tag that you put on a Coco Chanel bag. But I think, unfortunately, men, I know myself, I was ignorant for a while as to what it meant to love a woman. And it goes beyond just what you could provide her materialistically, as far as what you can pay and what you can buy. It goes more so into, like, how do you show up when she needs you emotionally? How do you show up when she needs you mentally? Like, are you there to listen? Are you there to comfort her? Are you there to provide a safe space for her to be herself, and she doesn't feel obligated to have to constantly change who she is or be somebody different because you're unhappy with who she currently is? Are you going to love her through every phase of her life, whether if she gains weight or loses weight, if she changed the color of her hair or she loses her hair? Like, are you capable of loving her and being there for her on a consistent basis? Does she know that she can call you if things go wrong, or heck, when things go right? Are you going to celebrate her victories and be there to comfort her through her losses? Like, what does it mean to genuinely love a woman? And I know for a while it took me to learn that. And I had to ask that question because I didn't know. And keeping in mind that every woman's different. So what might have worked for the last woman might not work for this woman, even though they're all women. All women are different, just like all men are different. We all have different likes and dislikes, different personalities, different characteristics, different values. So everything's different, and it requires more education, it requires to learn, it requires to ask questions when you don't know, and don't just assume because you don't want to assume wrong. You want to ask questions. And on top of asking questions, it shows that, I feel like personally, it shows to your partner that you're willing to have these conversations, you're willing to engage, you're willing to be vulnerable, you're willing to seek answers, you're willing to learn more. And that's, in my personal opinion, means a lot to me, because you're willing to learn me as a man. And I can only imagine how a woman would feel. I'd imagine it'd be the same feeling. It'd be an amazing feeling. And also, I feel like a lot of men, because I'm still on the topic of expressing love and affection rather. I feel like a lot of men haven't received genuine love and affection unless they produce something. So it's more so like a give and take rather. So, like, as long as this man's giving, he's going to get love in return. But if this man isn't capable of giving because he lost his job, or he's just not strong enough to complete this task, or he doesn't have the answer for it, then he doesn't deserve love, or he doesn't deserve affection. And that's not true. It's just, I know a lot of situations, including myself, when I was in a situation where I wasn't able to produce certain things, I didn't receive the things in return that I still needed. As far as love and affection was concerned, like, my love and affection that I was going to receive was contingent on how much I could produce. And I'd imagine that a lot of men are in a similar situation. So moving on to the next point, handling constructive criticism / feedback, more so. I think that not only men struggle with this problem, I feel like it's a lot of people who can't separate the two, but I think it's mostly men. Because of the stereotypes and the societal expectations and everything else, where men feel like they have to be perfect, or they have to always have the answers, or they always have to provide. I feel like a lot of men look at it as like a pass or failure type deal. Like, if I'm succeeding as a man, then I'm a great man. If I'm failing as a man, then I'm a horrible man, more so is what I'm trying to say. So when it's time to take criticism in a relationship, it's pass or fail, right? Either I'm doing great as a man or I'm not doing great as a man. Rather than saying I'm a great man, but what I'm doing might need to look different, or it might need to be better. So for example, if my wife came to me and said, hey, I don't like the way you talk to me, I don't like the way you raised your voice at me, or I don't like the way you did that yesterday, the action. So she doesn't like the words or she doesn't like the action. I could take that and say, well, I'm just a crappy man because I don't know how to talk to my wife and I don't know how to be there for my wife in ways that she needs me to be. And you will hear a lot of men say, well, why don't you find a man who's better? Or why don't you find a man who could love you better? Why don't you find a man who could do this? Why don't you? And it's not the man. Like, the man is great. Like me, myself, I'm a great man. She just maybe wants me to talk to her differently, or she maybe wants me to do things differently. She maybe wants me to do things differently than what I'm used to doing for her. And that's okay. But I think instead of a lot of men taking that as like things just need to change, they take it as me, myself as a man need to change it in general because I'm not good enough, or because I need to change my entire being. And also you hear a lot of men sometimes say, well, I'm not changing who I am for you because this is just who I am. You take me or you leave me as I am. And that woman understands this is who you are. But also, like, you have to change the way you do things or the way you say things in order to navigate a relationship with her, in order to help this relationship thrive and grow. So it's not changing you as a person, it's just changing your habits and the way you're used to doing things, because now you have another variable, which is your girlfriend or your wife in your life. You have to accommodate that. And I think, and I feel, once men in general who have this, who deal with this, I hate to say it's a problem, but like it's an issue, right? But men who deal with this, I think if they were able to understand, like, when a woman says, hey, I would like to spend more quality time with you, instead of saying, well, I already spent a lot of time with you, what else do you want me to do? You want me to change my entire being? They take it as, okay, so from my understanding, you want me to spend more quality time with you. What is your idea of quality time? How can I spend more quality time with you? Okay, would you like to implement dates, a date night 3-4 times a week? Like, genuinely hearing that woman out and saying, okay, so from my understanding, you want to spend more quality time. This is your idea of quality time. And this is what's going to work for you. And this is what you feel like is going to work for our relationship. Am I correct? Okay, cool. And just changing that aspect of implementing more quality time instead of getting defensive and say, well, what do you expect me to do? And I'm trying my best, and looking at it as a pass or fail situation, because it's not. It just requires things to look differently, and that's okay. So supporting a partner's emotional needs. I think I touched on it a little bit earlier in the video where I said that just because something isn't a big deal to you as a man doesn't mean that it's not a big deal to her. And also keeping in mind that when things are a big deal to you as a man, rather if you feel like it's little and minuscule, or if you feel like it's genuinely a huge deal, you still need to talk about it. You still need to express it. It's still required for you as a man to have a safe space as well, the same way you want to provide a safe space for your woman. And every man's safe space looks different, but it still has the same concept of you feeling like you could be vulnerable in this space and still be yourself. And you're not less of a man for doing it, or you're not a wimp, or you're not a punk, or you're not stupid or dumb because you have these big feelings and these emotions, because you are human, even though you are a man. And I think that showing up in ways that, because everybody loves to be loved differently, and showing up in ways for your girlfriend or your wife in ways that she loves to be loved, you're still required that too. And your girlfriend or your wife is still required to show up in ways that you love to be loved as well. But I think that as a man, you need to understand what that looks like and what that feels like. It's going to take trial and error, and your wife or your girlfriend is not going to get it right on the first time. The same way you're not going to get it right for her on the first time, but it requires conversation on what that looks like and what that feels like, and what you might need in every moment, because every moment might be different. Sometimes you might need space. You got to express that. Sometimes you might need you might need cuddles or a hug. You got to express that. And it's okay that you need these things, but it's not okay to withhold that information and know you need these things, but say, you know what, it's okay, I'll deal with it, I'll figure it out. Or tell your partner, hey, it's okay, you can figure it out, because I don't want to do that right now, or I don't want to be there for you, because your partner's looking for you, or look it to you as their safe space, and you have to have that availability the same way you'd want that reciprocated. Even if your partner is not really in a place to be able to do that, you still expect them to show up in ways that you need them to with whatever energy they got that day and still give 100% regardless. The last on my list is managing insecurities. And I feel like everybody has insecurities, and I feel like it shows a lot more in men due to the ego. And the insecurities can come in different forms of height and weight and size when it comes to body parts. It could come in forms of like a man not really being secure with himself. Therefore, anytime his woman interacts with another man, he might be like, okay, why are you talking to that man? Or why are you interacting with him? Or what did you have to say to him? And that's not fair to her, obviously, if that's just because you have insecurities within yourself. And I feel like you yourself as a man, if you have insecurities, you could be honest about those. And the thing with insecurities is you either work on those and you change them, or you learn how to live with it and navigate it to the best of your ability. What I mean by that is if it's something physical, so for example, I have a gap, a gap in my teeth. If this was something that I was insecure about, it required me to either get braces and fix the gap so I'm no longer insecure about it, or to learn how to live with my gap and learn how to love my gap and be secure about it. But either way, it's going to require me to be secure within myself so that way I don't project it to my girlfriend or anybody external to me, because it's not fair that I'm getting upset that my wife is talking to somebody who has better teeth than I do. And I'm like, okay, why are you talking to that guy who has better teeth than I do? And I'm projecting my insecurity onto her instead of being secure within myself and understanding that my woman chose me. Just like women out there, you choose your man, right? And you chose him for a reason. And I think a lot of men have to identify and realize that, like, yes, your woman probably had a plethora of choices of men she could have chose from, but she chose you. And there is a reason or reasons for that. And it's going to require you to be secure enough in yourself to understand, like, yes, the same way you wanted your woman is the same way other men are going to want your woman, because your woman is not only attractive to you. You can't be insecure about every single thing. I mean, you can't project your insecurity onto every single man because of every single thing that's going on internal to you. You have to be a secure enough man in yourself to realize, like, yes, there are going to be parts of yourself that you don't genuinely love, you don't genuinely like. You either change those or you learn how to live with it. And you don't change it for other people or for the opinion of other people. You change it for yourself until you genuinely are happy with the way that you look and the way that you feel and who you are as a man. I feel like I touched on a lot of the points that I wanted to cover, but if there's any other aspects of what men typically struggle with in a relationship, or if you are men struggling with things in a relationship, or if you are a man who overcame things in a relationship, or if you are a woman who's with a man and identifying things that your man might be struggling with, please leave it in the comment section below. Maybe I missed something, maybe I didn't. I hope this video was very informative to those of you who stuck around and watched the whole thing. I know it was kind of long, but I want to make sure I touched on everything I possibly could. I hope you all have a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, depending on which time zone you're currently watching me in. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave a brother a thumbs up. I appreciate your all's time. Thank you so much for being here. And see ya.